Hello and welcome to another episode of Writer and Geek Show. We are your hosts Vishnu and Shankar. And in this episode, we're going to talk about colonialism again because it's been a month or so since we have gone back to that series.
Yeah, so we're back with that series on colonialism, and in between we did a couple of other, random episodes as well.
Yeah.
But this has been a running series, so I think it's time for the next one.
Yeah, so last time we stopped at the revolt of 1857. We talked about the rebellion and why it happened, the reasons why it happened and how it ended up being. And so we're going to go to the next part where the British rule, the British Raj actually started. Like under the rule of Queen Victoria, the East India Company was abolished. And she started ruling directly. So we're going to start with what happened after 1857. There were like a lot of nationalist movements which started where people realized that the Britishers were not actually treating Indians properly. And they don't want to be under the British rule anymore.
And that, I think this is around the time when one of the longest standing parties, political parties in India was also formed.
Yeah. So it almost took another 30 years. In 1885, inspired by what Alan Octavian Hume, one major personality from Britain, said to Dadabhai Naoroji and Surendranath Banerjee, they started a party called Indian National Congress. I think most of us know about it, right? Yeah. If you don't know, then I don't know which.
Then you might have been living under a rock.
Yeah. So Indian National Congress has a long history. It's been around for almost 135 years now. So when it started, it was just a society, like it was just an organization for all the elite class people, educated people, well-to-do people to come together and debate about things annually. It didn't have a well-formed ideology of how to go about with things. They were actually supporting the Britishers. They wanted the British to rule India, but on the side, they wanted to avail some, rights for the citizens.
This was in no way the beginning of a freedom movement or anything like that. Initially, Indian National Congress was appeasing the British government, letting them stay in power, but, have equal status for Indians as well.
Yeah, if you look at it before that also, until the revolutionaries came into the fray, even the extremists, there was no real idea of, just liberating India from the Britishers. So yeah, Indian National Congress is the first organization to recognize India as India,
India as an entity or a country or...
Yeah, as a country. So most of the time it used to be a peaceful faction, but the issue was that at the core of it, the foundation was not properly laid. Most of the people who were part of the Indian National Congress were Hindus.
Right.
And everyone who had a high post in the organization were Hindus. So
the majority of the society was not being represented.
Yeah. So the minority were just left out, and especially the Muslim faction of the country, they were like, okay, if they're not going to recognize us with them, we'll have to do something. And because of that, in 1875, this person called Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, he started this university called Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College of Aligarh in UP. Which you would know because later in 1920, it was renamed as Aligarh University.
Right.
And things were, going well. There were religious factions having issues with each other, and Britishers, they were always relying on the divide and rule policy. So in the end, when Bengal was divided into two, which is East Bengal and West Bengal,
I think the East Bengal is what later became East Pakistan, right?
Yeah. And again in 1971, it became Bangladesh. Right. So the Muslims in India, they realized, we need another organization to represent us properly, and they started the Muslim League. Right. So this was in 1906.
Okay. And one other interesting thing about West Bengal, right? So when I was a kid, I used to wonder, and I'm sure that many others did as well. West Bengal is on the eastern side of India, right? Then why is it called West Bengal?
It's because of East Bengal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ideally, there should be just Bengal.
Yeah. Even I used to think like that, why is it called West Bengal when it's actually in the east?
Yeah.
So this is the reason why. If you don't know kids, this is why. I'm not sure if any kids listen to our episode.
I don't think they'll even care about this.
Yeah. So anyway, initially INC was doing great, but there were like major differences happening between the organization, and it divided into two factions, moderates and extremists. The moderates consisted of the early members of the Indian National Congress like Dadabhai Nauroji and Gopal Krishna Gokhale. Like we have heard a lot about him during our history lessons, right? And the extremists were Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Bipin Chandrapal and Lala Lajpat Rai, famously known as Lal Bal Pal.
Yeah.
Is it Lal Bal Pal?
Correct,
Yeah.
it is.
So Bal Gangadhar Tilak is the one who proclaimed that, Swaraj is our birthright.
So that is the first time this concept of independent India came into existence.
So he is the one who put forth this idea. But Dadabhai Nauroji and the other faction of moderates, they being like, we'll still appease British and go about with it. They forced out these extremists out of the party. And later these extremists were arrested, which led to a lot of issues with INC, and they lost, their credibility because of this. And one thing that I wanted to add about Dadabhai Nauroji, right? He's like really educated. He knows everything well. And he also ran for, the House of Commons in UK and won. Yeah. So there were people like that who were in India who used to do this kind of stuff. So yeah, there was actually no representation for the middle class and lower, the poor people in INC. So this is what led to the creation of other major organizations in India.
And I also think that when we think of India before independence, right, we have this picture of a long-suffering faction of society, but there was another section of society that enjoyed absolute luxury as well. One case in point is all these royal families of those times. They enjoyed all the luxury. So I was, as I mentioned in many of the previous episodes, I was reading The Ivory Throne. So in which the kind of luxury that royal families had at that point of time, it's unimaginable, because there is one section of society which is completely oppressed, who is bearing the brunt of this oppression and stuff like that, and there is another section which is completely living in a different world, which was very much similar to what the Western world was at that time. They had automobiles. I'm talking about 1920s and even before that, during 1900s and all that. So yeah, there was a big difference. So if we always picture Indians as being totally oppressed, but yeah, that was a majority of the people. But then there was another class which was having absolute luxury at the same time.
Yeah. So that's why the people who were not being oppressed, they never questioned the agenda of the Britishers. So that's what was going on. So Indian National Congress was not really representing the people, and a little later, after the extremists were formed, then came the revolutionaries. Famously, part of it were Bhagat Singh, Chandrasekhar Azad. I think we can dedicate another episode for them. And I'm pretty sure most of us know about them.
Right.
And some of the names which I would mention is like, they were like kids, like 18-year-olds, 17-year-olds, like Khudiram Bose, and there was this person called Prafulla Chakki.
Right. And I think when Bhagat Singh was hanged, he was around 23 years old.
He was 23. Right. These two guys were 18.
Wow.
So they
I don't even remember what I was doing when I was 23.
I know. Their purpose was to like liberate India from the Britishers, and these guys tried to assassinate British officials when they were like 18 years old. And both of them were hanged. So like if you look at it, I don't know how they can find a purpose in those kind of things when they are at such a young age. So they must be that oppressed, right?
Rang De Basanti is all about.
Yeah. But in that one, they are at least like 23, 24 years old, right? Most of them.
Yeah, but there is one line which Kunal Kapoor's character says. He says that I had no idea that there will be something in our life for which we'll be ready to give our life.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, this is something that even I think at times. is there anything in this world which is worth giving your life? Whenever I think of this freedom struggle and all that, the people who actually gave their life or who suffered being in jail and all those things, they never really got anything out of it, right? They were doing it for others or maybe the future generation or whatever it is. Even Bhagat Singh, in one of his conversations with Chandrasekhar Azad, where he says that I'm going to surrender after the parliamentary, that event which happens. He says that my intention is to get myself caught so that tomorrow's India can have freedom, right? I mean, how do you go to such a level?
I have no idea. Like, the selfless sacrifice they did, right? That is something which
I think we will never understand that.
Yeah.
Right.
In a world and age where we are like conveniently living, we don't have a reason to actually think about it. But I think it's a good thing to like ponder upon.
Maybe not. Maybe we might not think about the country, and we are not probably that level, at that level to sacrifice. But is there something at all that we might do?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. So at the same time, when the Muslim League was formed, another organization called Jugantar was formed in April of 1906. It was founded by Aurobindo Ghosh and his brother Barin Ghosh, and then Bhupendra Datta and Raja Subodh Malik. I don't know, for some reason Subodh reminds me of Dil Chahta Hai, but yeah, that's not the point here. So these guys, what they used to do is like, Aurobindo Ghosh used to be a moderate. Then he turned into an extremist. He turned into a revolutionary.
Well, that is what happens when you push the limits, right?
Yeah. And what these guys used to do is that they used to collect armaments and manufacture armaments so that they can, rebel against the Britishers. So, and then there was this other faction called Ghadar Party.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
You've heard of them.
Right.
Yeah, so these guys were like not like Indians living in India. These were expatriates who were living in Canada, Germany, Australia, and all other countries. They formed a organization called the Ghadar Party, and they tried to mutiny, rebellion against the British in the British Indian Army. So they had this major plan where they were like collecting arms from Germany.
They were funding and
providing arms and stuff. But the Britishers, their intelligence, they found them, and most of them were arrested. The Jugantar and
I think there would have been also these cases where there were some Indian traitors as well, right?
Yeah, a lot of times. If you look at any of the Bhagat Singh movies, you'll find, a few who are like, for the sake of it, they just...
sake of money and
other stuff. Betray the revolutionaries. So, and another organization which formed during this time, like this organization again puts forth the idea that how badly the minorities were represented by INC. This one was called All India Conference of Indian Christians. So this was formed in 1914. And the first president of this organization was K.T. Paul, who was from Salem. So even the Christians needed an organization to get all the rights, basic rights they deserve. So instead of coming together after the 1857 revolt, there was still divisions amongst people, which led to, another 90 years of oppression by the Britishers.
Well, by the Britishers, yes, but that division still continues, right?
Yeah, it's still there. So what I'm wondering is that, even if the Britishers didn't try to divide and rule, it would have existed, right?
Yeah, probably it would have existed as a issue within a single country.
Yeah.
But I struggle to think of instances where religion has actually brought people together. There might be incidents, but if you look at history, right? Let's look at medieval history onwards. There have been so many cases where the religion has been the focus of wars and all that kind of stuff. Since the Middle Ages, we had crusades. Right? And then we know what's happening in the current age as well. So, I mean, I sometimes struggle to think what good is it actually doing.
Yeah, so this is around like 1915 till 1915, 1857 to 1915, these things happen. And then a major person like came back to India from abroad, from South Africa. And there was this whole movement surrounding him, the Swadeshi, the Quit India movement.
I'm guessing that is Mahatma Gandhi, right?
Movement. Is it? You keep guessing, yeah. So probably in the next episode, we are going to talk about exclusively about him. Then we'll have another episode on the revolutionaries. So yeah, we are coming to a close to this colonization of India series. Oh, one thing I missed. And during all these times, around like 1892, right, there was this major thing happening in Gujarat where the British government, they
faced a major defeat, right?
Yeah, they faced a major defeat, but the issue was that they tried to increase the taxes by three times.
Right.
It happened in this village called Champaner. And
it's got something to do with sports or something.
Yeah. So what happened was because the farmers, because there was a drought issue there, and the farmers were not able to get promising produce that year. So the Britishers were like, if you don't pay the tax, we're gonna increase it by 3 times. So they challenged these farmers to a game of cricket, and then the villagers won. And
I think that was captured in a documentary called The Lagan or something, right?
Ashutosh Gowarikar, he put together all the historical footages.
See, the thing is, I'm really impressed at the quality of footages that they've got, the video and the audio quality and stuff. And there was this musician called A.R. Rahman, who put together the song, some musical melody and songs. Amazing.
Yeah, I think that
for 1890s, that is like a crazy good quality.
So that happened. And yeah, that's about it till 1915.
Yeah, you may be able to find that documentary somewhere online. Please go and watch it. It's a 3 hour long documentary. Yeah. They have covered the entire game of cricket. Rules were a little different. And
they even
like
cover about things about casteism, man.
Yeah.
It's a deep documentary.
It's a
deep dive into it and let us know.
I'm surprised why is it not showing up in the top 10 in documentaries in Netflix. Anyway, but please give it a shot.
Yeah. Okay then. So that's it for this episode. Till we see you next time.
Thank you so much.